Good evening. I'm Kartikeya Sharma and welcome to News9 Mediaverse, and you are watching To The Point. As tensions persist in Manipur, the central government is scheduled to engage in a second round of discussions with two umbrella groups of Kuki militant bodies. These talks fall within the framework of the ongoing suspension of the operations agreement. The SU agreement addresses the Kuki-Zo communities, call for the establishment of a separate administrative entity within Manipur. That's what they want. It's worth noting that in August 2008, 25 Kuki militant factions entered into an agreement known as the suspension of operations with both the central and Manipur state government. Sources tell us that the second round of talk will take place in New Delhi on August 17. The first round of discussion on the same issue was held on July 26, which was reported by a number of newspapers. Now let me come straight to the point and ask my colleague Brijesh, do you think the talks with the Kuki militants is way forward when one half of the population wants the entire agreement to be done away with?
I think, the government is in a fix, and this talk may help, assuage the fears. But the reality is that, yes, the entire state administration, if you remember, the statement given by Assam chief, by Manipur chief minister, we clearly stated that, that the SU operation, SU groups are behind this violence, and this has been amplified by several Maiti groups and all. So the government, if you look at the military side, the army and the Assam rifles and all, they have very clearly said that the majority of the weapons which are with the SU groups are in under lock and key, and one of the key is with the Indian army. So it has created a very strange kind of situation where one faction, the state administration and all, blame the Kuki militant group, saying that they are the one who is responsible for the kind of tension which is there in the state of Manipur, and the SU agreement should be declared null and void. But I think the government also knows, the central government also knows the ramification of walking out of the tripartite agreement which these militant groups have. So
okay,
I think it's still a very complex situation.
It's a complex situation. Absolutely, it's a complex situation. Let's listen into the sound bite of the Chief Minister of Manipur, Biren Singh.
Mighty British yamna numit taba leite hariba adugumba mapangal laikraba matamdugi British singi mayokta picture basu pikna laibaga moina ningthau panba laibaga moina leijariba duma Manipur gi ningkha tambada singnarakpadagi adugumba mapangal lairaba sakti lairaba British tubu mayokna khibada thawai thakiba athobusing mafamda leisu katpagi numini moibu ningsingbani ana makhoina chalamba lichet makhoigi sacrifice moina leipak kidamakta kathomba thauna ringjent moi wakhalon adu ngasigi Manipur gi miyamda nahumna ningsingan baga loinana aikhoi punamangna leibak kidamakta aur jati sigidamakta amatoina punna leminna dana thengna bahai badunga si mungna hona wasak lomina si hai bai Manipur miyam da apil tawningi aduga punamaki mafam da soi koina laikhidraba thobusing mafam da soi koina sadanjali katna koi punamaktagi ngakta phi alaga makhoi bu soi khurumjari tawraiba kangbu Manipur bu mase tanaiba tawraiba kangbu koi praja ga punna koi yam kana thengnari hojik almost tamna santi ki phibam halai akhoi mayam punamangna Manipur da leiba praja punamak amotoina pulakana santi porongna bai ko honori honamina chi at the best possible way to restore peace in the state of Manipur.
And I'm being joined by Dr. Thongola Haukep, Assistant Professor, Center for the Study of Law and Governance, JNU, and I'm also joined by Colonel Shanti Kumar Sapam, social activist and president of an alumni of the Imphal Group National Cadet Corps, Manipur. Welcome both of you in my show To The Point. Mr. Haukep, first to you, how do you see the conversation which is going to have, which will take place, which will be held on 17th?
Kartikeya, given the kind of conflict and the deep divide we have in Manipur, I think that the cookies also deserve some sort of constitutional settlement because, as I gathered
ये
from,
मुझे एक चीज बताइए.
uh, they have been demanding, for instance, a union territory with a legislature with many provisions underneath. However, earlier the Kuki MP Manipur was saying that looking into the kind of inflictions that has been placed upon the Kukis, they said that without a separate state, they will not settle for it. So there is a kind of hardening as the conflict continues, and hopefully, I think the government of India would discuss with them and try to look into the grievance of the Kukis as well as other communities in the hills also, because the Naga talks has been hanging on for the last almost 30 years, and their grievance also needs to be looked into it, and it is only the center that has to take into all these accounts and formulate a kind of arrangement or a kind of settlement for all the communities, because all the communities, they claim that they have grievances, they have developmental lag, and this and that. So this has to be looked into, the kind of institutional lacking that hill areas have. For instance, there's no single university in the hill areas, or even a medical institute, or any other institute of higher learning. And it is only recently that partial kind of inclusion had happened in the form of tribal university regional campus in Sadar Hills, or Churachandpur Medical College. So there needs to be a kind of arrangement that has to be made, whether it may be political or whether it may be institutional. It has to be done, and I hope on 17th of this month, this discussion would be fruitful, and the cookie groups would be submitting their charter of demands in the form of union territory with the legislature, and we hope that the discussions would have certain outcome that would be beneficial to the marginalized communities who
Shanti
are
Kumar?
agree for.
Okay. Shanti Kumar ji, your thoughts on this? It's a very contested issue because 20 days ago, when we were having this conversation, people were riled up. They said, no, this agreement should be done away with. But, center is going to have a talk with them. They spoke with ITLF. It just goes on to show that center is not going to limit itself. Center is not limiting itself to a particular group. It's trying to take a bipartisan approach. बात सबसे होगी. Sapam साहब. Mr. Sapam? Mr. Sapam? Can you unmute yourself? Prasanjit also joins me. Professor, doesn't it tell us that rhetoric is one thing, but real politics is another thing. In real politics, center seems to be talking to everyone. The political leaders in Manipur might be taking a very different stand, that no talks and this and that, and 40 Meithei MLAs taking a very different position. But center is talking to everyone.
Yes, ultimately it is the central government, as per our constitution, will determine how these cookies will crumble, actually. It's not really the local stakeholder alone, because Manipur has got national and international attention. And the kind of conflicts that have come in, that is something exceptional, and that has a very different kind of a security dimension. Security dimension not in terms of what is being stereotyped, but security dimension in terms of establishing a larger inter-ethnic harmony, which is absolutely necessary from an internal security point of view. External security point of view is very different. So from the internal security point of view, how we can find a common ground, how we can make one party understand the genuine grievances and the accumulated historical injustice meted to the other party. how we can remove the existing political asymmetry that happens between the hill and the valley, how we can address the issues about resettlement, non-refoulement of the victims, how we give justice to those who are violated. All those issues need to be discussed with a multi-stake kind of a situation. And Center is following the right course in bringing everyone together. The second part is the role of the governance institutions. The financial institutions have to act in a manner that it is able to compensate for the losses that many of these internally displaced people have suffered. They have lost their homes. How do you give them back their homes in terms of what kind of compensation that you have to pay to them? Financial institutions have to play a major role for that. No one can sit idle now without giving them back the homes that have been burned down, razed, or brought down completely and made people homeless. People are not still having enough sense of security, the psychological and the social security. That requires another level of government institutions or governance institutions, along with civil society, NGOs, to take part, so that the kind of bad blood that is created, in terms of which we have seen a certain civil society group is calling for aggression on the other civil society members, which is unprecedented. It's unprecedented that Meitei women's group do not have a solidarity with Kuki women's group.
Correct.
Women's groups in Northeast historically have come on the table, and they have created a congenial atmosphere for larger peace talks. Now, Center has to take that part also into account. If Center is talking to everyone, it needs to talk to women's group. It needs to talk to Naga Mothers Association. It needs to talk to Kuki women's groups. It needs to talk to Meitei women's groups. And all these women's groups can be brought together. And it will really create a different sense of peace altogether in case of Manipur, which is absolutely needed at this point of time.
I think that's a very good.
So
I think that's a very good point, Professor. That different apart from the stated groups, they need to talk to different groups, and I think the women groups had been in forefront. And Mera Paibis is not one group. A lot of people think that it's a one group. It's a group with different factions, and it's a Mera Paibi is a word which connotes different type of action organized by women. Who doesn't remember the sort of protest they did against AFSPA, where they took off their clothes and said Indian Army rape us. This was the word they used,
powerful picture.
and it shocked everyone. I mean to say, so Mera Paibis have a history, but then the sort of actions which have taken on ground is something I completely agree with the professor, in which women from two different ethnic communities, they stand against each other. There is no solidarity in context of gender. Shanti Kumar Sapam is also with us. Sapam Saab, am I audible to you?
Yes, I can hear you. Huh?
Okay, Sapam Saab, my question to you is that first of all, your opening comments on the talks which are going to take place on 17. Your opening comments.
Firstly, good evening to everyone. And
good evening.
Before I give my comments for the 17th, I just happened to heard Professor Hauki. Very good evening to you. And for the viewers, I would like to submit one thing, that the facilities as far as the valley is concerned, the first gas agency in Imphal, in Manipur, I would say, Manipur was at Imphal, established in Imphal by a person called Misao, Mr. Misao. He was a Kuki chap. And the biggest shopping mall is at Imphal again, and it is owned by Mr. T.N. Haukip. He is from Churachandpur. And the second shopping complex, the second biggest, and the name is Bazaar, and that is again owned by a Kuki chap. And a hospital, advanced hospital, is also established by a Kuki person in Imphal. My question is, and the university, as far as university is concerned, for the first time in Manipur, it came in 1983 at Imphal. And Imphal is the center place where the Kuki Bhais, Kuki brothers, then Naga brothers from all around the hilly villages, they will all come down in Imphal. if it is established at Churachandpur, then how will the person from Ukhrul go there? So one has to think in a way that okay, if All India, aims, All India Institute of Medical Science, if why it is placed in Delhi? Because the government or the people, they have to decide where it is to be placed. Now, subsequently, the second biggest town in Manipur after Imphal is Churachandpur, and now the hospital has come. Hospital, medical college has come very recently. Unfortunately, this incident has happened, and that is why must be, I don't know what is happening as of now, but otherwise it started. And on third, many incidents happened that we will not discuss. And the Hill University is also there. One Hill University is also there as of now, which is in the hill. Now, Kautrug Sports University, the pride of Manipur. And this is the only university of its kind in the whole country. That is, Sports University of India. It has come up Kautrug. It is the Kuki dominated area. So because of various, opinions, constructions and things have not been able to, complete as of now. So one has to, we have to know the ground reality, what is happening around. Imphal is the center place. There are many villages, Kuki villages also over here. There are many, all the 10 MLAs, they have got proper houses in Imphal. They have all the houses, they have property over here. As I told you, that Mr. Misao, who started the gas agency in Imphal, he's got so much of property in Imphal, near the gas agency. So, we never said anything, the Maitai never said anything. I don't want to say we, because, once in army, I am always an army chap. Now, certain things we Indians have to understand is, if any person, whether let it be ex-serviceman or serviceman, if they are saying the border is completely sealed, the border is completely sealed. If he is saying that, then he is lying. Okay, that I can openly challenge. That person is lying. As far as weapon coming in Manipur from outside, from Myanmar or things like that, it is not easy. My Jawans, my Kuki Jawans, my Mizo Jawans, they keep telling me the story when they come back from leave. They said that they go to Myanmar, they have got wives from there, they have got relatives over there, they can go anytime, they can come anytime, there's just no problem. And if any ex-serviceman, let it be any dignitary, any rank, if he is saying the border is completely sealed and things cannot come from that side and this side, that person is lying. That I would challenge. Okay? That is one thing which I would like to say, which I keep hearing from time and again, which is absolutely, I think it is a joke. Okay? This kind of thing should not happen. And as far as I have been telling since the beginning, that negotiating table is required. Kuki Bhais, Naga Bhais, we are all brothers. Let it be who came first, who came last, that is immaterial. The government of India has cut off some few dates, 1950, and thereafter everyone is a citizen. We are all Indians. My Kuki Jawans are great fighters. My Naga Jawans are great fighters. Maitais are great fighters. And whenever we go to JNK, Assam regiment is feared by the terrorists there. Assam regiment, please ask any commander. They long for Assam regiment in their brigade or in their division. This is the impression which Assam regiment has, and we are very great fighters on ground. We are very good. My Kuki Jawans, Naga Jawans, Maitai Jawans, we are very good. I can proudly say. But the thing is, what has happened? It has happened. You can't do anything. You cannot take it back. Different agencies are there. They will give informations. The center is not fool. They know each and everything. Who started first, who did not start first, how the weapon will come, weapon will not go. In Imphal Valley, weapon cannot come. In Imphal Valley, weapon cannot come from all sides, from anywhere. That is why the loot took place, because it was by compulsion. Forget it also, that also. The weapon will come. There is no question of weapon not coming. I am telling you all, my brother Indians, my brothers and sisters in India, please don't worry, those weapons were taken, they will all come. But what about the porous border. That is the main concern as of today.
Shanti correct. Porous border is an issue. But my question to you was about the Kuki militant groups. And this is not a one-off thing. It was signed in 2008. It's more than 15 years ago. And the talks are going to take place on 17th.
Yes, I will tell you one thing about this. I was very surprised to know that, since I had served in Assam Rifles for 4 years over here during the Naga Kuki class, the Kukis were never against the Indian force. This is one thing which I observed. They never conducted any ambush against the Indian forces, that is, let's say, Indian Army or Assam Rifles, and they were not against the Manipur police also. So the question is, few questions keep asking me, few questions keep asking me in my mind, where was the requirement of the Sioux? Where was the requirement? This is why I personally, and that too since a long time, 26, 25 years, 15 years as of now, 15 years they were in Sioux. Why so? And I just cannot digest why there was a Sioux, because they were never against the Indian forces. And as of now, the central government and the party, whosoever get in agreement, they must understand that no party, or let's say no community, can cleanse any community. Living in harmony is the main thing. And one more thing, the questions which people are asking regarding various topics, like cultivation, then immigration, and all these things should be answered, and that should be done. That will be subsequently done by the government of India.
Okay.
And NRC is the main thing to be kept in mind before we talk.
So 17th is the right step to speak to the Kuki militants, yes or no? To the point.
Yes. Anytime the table should be always arranged, and it should be talked out. Baatchit karna chahiye. Everyone must talk. All the communities, they should be called. As I said, you cannot have this kind of talk in Manipur. It may not be conducive to having in Guwahati.
But one thing you said, Sapam Saab, you said Sapam Saab, you said one thing, all the weapons will come. जो weapons loot लिए गए वो वापस कैसे आएंगे? मतलब how will they come back?
It's very simple. Let me tell you one thing. I'll tell you. Imphal is a valley. And when you start announcing, when peace is there, when peace prevails in Manipur, if announcement is made, all those people who are having weapon, please surrender it, and keep it at some place, some mandir, temple, church, or things like that. That will be surrendered. As far as Imphal Valley is concerned, that is very simple. Why? I will tell you. If anybody is caught with weapon, he will be under NSA. He will be charged under NSA, and that can be announced. And let me tell you, the Meitei communities are not so very fond of weapon. They are basically, as I told before also, if Manipur was happening and people were progressing, and suddenly this class has taken, I don't know how many years back, how many decades it's gone back now. And we were living so nicely, everyone. And for the first time, I was, one Kuki person was trying to, he filed his nomination for MLA election in Imphal Valley only. There is a constituency called Wangkai. He filed his paper there. In Imphal, we say that 40 are nominated in the valley, 40 MLAs. No, it is not so. Anybody can fight from Imphal Valley. Anybody.
Okay.
But
my colleague Rajesh has a question.
Mr. Sapam, I just wanted to know, it's fantastic to hear what you're saying, because it gives a hope, given the kind of animosity it is there, and the deep divide is there. But, you talk about Assam Rifles, and the fact is that, you served in Manipur for 4 years, but that Assam Rifle is also at crosshairs. And the positivity which comes out of your mouth, sir, is very good to hear. But unfortunately, the reality on the ground is completely 180 degree different. How do you reconcile to that?
Yes, I'll tell you. This class compared to the first class, there is a difference in the marked difference in the degree. The first class was very severe, and Assam Rifle is such a good force. It depends on the commander. Assam Rifle Jawans are very tough, physically as well as mentally. And they are also disciplined. But they are all human beings. They keep seeing the officers after every 1 year, after every 6 months, like that. And they act as per the personality of the officer who are posted. This is for sure. This is my opinion.
Okay, I think, you know,
and it happens on ground.
Okay, Sapam
Now,
Saab, you had the floor for 10 minutes. I really need to get Mr. Haukip here. Mr. Haukip, two things. One, do you think that the weapons will come back? Sapam Saab has said weapons will come back. Do you think that weapons will be surrendered so easily?
Yes, so far the government of Manipur or somebody has already given them time frame to submit the looted or the given of weapons, but only few has returned. So how many months do you need to return the weapons? And let me take a quick response to some of the points that have been made. For instance, in the hills, Churachandpur Medical College is coming up. It's just a college. How can you compare a college with a medical institute like AIMS or RIMS in Imphal? So these are like comparing apple and oranges, because in the medical college in Churachandpur has just started. They have nothing, you know, there is hardly any instruments. And look into the disparity in Imphal Valley also. For instance, the RIMS and GNIMS medical institutes are in Imphal. Do we have any kind of medical institutes in Thobar, Kakching or Bishnupur? These areas are lacking. It's only in this Imphal area that the kind of institutions and political and other institutions are located. And if we look into the regional campus of Tribal University also, it is just a regional campus, and there is hardly 3 departments which has been given to this center, and it's hardly a university also. If we talk about a university, then unless it is a full-fledged university which can create departments autonomously, then we can't say something is there. And if you look into the National Sports University also, look into the address of the National Sports University. It will be located in Imphal West. It's not in the Sadar Hills or Kampupi district. So it's a disputed one, and basically it's in the foothills. So these are the things that has to be taken into account, and the disparity has to be looked into not only in the hills and valley comparing it, but between the districts also. Imphal East and West has disproportionately all the institutions, the High Court, you know, the police headquarters, whatever you say, you know, the National Institute of Technology and others, they are located in Imphal, especially Imphal West. So these are the institutional gaps that and the locational gaps that has been, lastly seen in Manipur. These are the grievances that people have. So we have to look into all this, kind of grievances from the hill communities also.
Okay.
And regarding the Assam Rifles, I think he knows better, but yet let me give an input also that in the last 3 months, most of the valley-based insurgent groups have moved into Imphal Valley now. I think as a military man, he must be understanding this, and most of the surrendered valley-based insurgent groups are also right now perhaps with all those looted guns. So huge disproportionate, in terms of arms and ammunition between the hills and valley. So that's why how much people from the hills suffer, that you can understand in terms of the losses, in terms of the kind of military strength. So we have to look into this, and particularly because of this reason why the Kukis were afraid that the Assam Rifles should not leave the hill area, and they became the sole protector during this time of crisis. And for the valley, for instance, they don't want the Assam Rifles. They are seen as a blockade to any kind of move freely in terms of strategic or any other offensive move.
But there is one issue, Mr. Haukip. There is one issue, Mr. Haukip. Professor, how do you redistribute assets? If there's an IIM, it goes to Lucknow. If there's a medical college, it goes to Bhopal. How do you decide which part of the country the infrastructure needs to be built? I don't think it is very specific to Manipur. And right now the context is on 17, a very important meeting is happening, and this meeting is happening in wake of a complete division of priorities between Kuki and Maiti MLAs. I mean to say, they have not demonstrated any bipartisan spirit. It is something happening from the Ministry of Home Affairs. Ministry of Home Affairs has demonstrated bipartisan spirit. They are engaging with everyone. But the people who should have engaged with everyone, they are playing decisively a divisive politics.
Yes, the roots of this politics is structural, as I have been maintaining. If you look at the distribution of institutions and distribution of funds since the creation of the state of Manipur, you can see that there is a kind of a skewed distribution. How much hills have got, how much the valley area has got. Now, this skewed distribution of financial resources is part of the historical injustice. Then comes the question of representation. In representation also, hill-valley divide is very much there, although from the hill valley, some hill people are also elected. I do not deny that. But overall demographic pattern, overall control of institutions, overall circulation of resources have remained asymmetric. There is no egalitarian distribution of resources between hills and the valley. Now, hills are looked upon as a area of unexplored resources. You have heard about discovery and exploration of oil in certain parts of Ukrul Hills. You have heard about discovery of certain precious minerals in the Kuki inhabited areas. Now you see, already the asymmetry is so huge. And then if you think that the local community will be uprooted because forest rights acts are not protecting them, there were instances of eviction by calling them as outsiders. Now you see, politics and economy get intertwined in a manner that sharpens the kind of skewedness that has been already historically existing. Now, given that skewed distribution pattern and the political class supporting the skewed distribution, what has happened is that there is a kind of a selective distribution of booties. And these booties have gone to the elites of the hills, elites of the valley area. Now, these elites have some inter-elite competition, but they also have collaboration. Right now, because their electoral base, their ethnic base is in a kind of conflict. So these elites are not able to come together. So Kuki elites and Meitei elites and Naga elites literally have fallen apart. So therefore, center has to mediate and bring them together through a democratic process. And the moment we talk about a democratic process, we have to take a rear window view, and we should see where exactly who is. And in a rear window view, objects are nearer than they seem to be. So we can see deprivation nearer the hills. We can see deprivation of the large masses of the Meitei community. We can see inequality, and maldistribution, and a kind of ill-fare that has happened.
Manipur insurgency is also it's also a window into the way we reinterpret history. In early days, I recall both the communities were saying that they are the ones who has stood by the national cause. And there was a paper I was reading that the early militancy of the Manipur in 50s and 60s, including pre-pack, was actually inspired by Bengali revolutionaries, and lot of them, including Ayobat and other people, they wanted to create a socialistic society in the state, and it had nothing to do with I would say which community is more national. Everyone had a fair run when it comes to secessionist politics.
You see, this has happened in valley area. The communist kind of revolutionary activities didn't happen in the hill area. Why it has happened in valley area? Because there was influence of Mr. Ghoshal who was leading that big revolutionary struggle in 1942 when Bharat Chado movement was on. So that influence was carried in Imphal Valley by Hijam Irabat Singh, one of the most respected freedom fighter after Bir Tikendrajit, who defended the valley against the British. So there is this rich anti-colonial struggle. And Kuki people have also fought the colonizers. There is this famous Anglo-Kuki war, although some people do not want to recognize it. Now you see, there are these anti-colonial struggle. There is anti-colonial struggle by Rani Gaidilu. So anti-colonial struggles have acted as a basis of creating a kind of ethnic nationalism among various ethnic groups. Historically, that is very, very correct. But that kind of nationalism, to some extent, have brought these communities together when the state of Manipur was formed in 1972 or when the accession of Manipur happened in 1949. Hijam Irabat Singh, the unchallenged revolutionary leader of Manipur, who was adored by the tribals and the non-tribals and Meiteis and everyone, actually facilitated the kind of integration that has happened of Manipur with the Indian state. Now these are the histories of the past. But right at this moment, these histories are not impacting the current generation. What is impacting the current generation is this spate of violence, the logic of retaliation, the kind of spectacularity that this logic of violence have attained, and the kind of things that have gone in the long decade between 90s to 2000. You can see a lot of infighting, a lot of insurgent activities have happened that have separated the communities. Meitei community and their insurgent outfit went one way. There was initially an alliance between Meitei and Naga insurgents. Then they fell apart. There are now distinctly two different lines of insurgent groups, and then there are two different kinds of peace talks. And people have sort of surrendered. They have come back to the mainstream. Meghan and all these people have come back to the mainstream. Now, in the same way, there was Sioux agreement with the Kuki militants. I don't see why that is to be objected to if it has facilitated peace in hill areas. So therefore, I believe that peace is possible. Let's give a chance to the peace. Let's bring the stakeholders to a kind of a discussion. And through that, we can bring various segments together. We can bring women,
I think on this
we
side,
can bring students. Yeah.
You know, when you're talking about peace, peace has a timeline. Is there a timeline on which Amit Shah is working? Is there a timeline on which MHA is working? Now the parliament session is over. Assembly elections are 3 months away. Is there a timeline they have, a sort of a period in between they can talk to everyone, get everyone together? Suddenly there's a drop in temperature in last 72 hours after parliament debate.
No, but Karthikeya, I don't think that, they're working at a timeline because it's an extremely complex process where, you have to take into the emotions and the considerations and the security impact of talking to Sioux groups or walking out of the tripartite agreement, which is the Sioux agreement. Then they also have to cater to your vote bank, which is which you cannot alienate the largest percentage of population, which is the Meitei population. Your chief minister is often commonly referred to as a Meitei chief minister. So there are several angles to this particular conversation which is happening. The good part and the praiseworthy part is that the government is not leaving any party to the problem. So they are talking to every single person concerned to send a message, and rightly so, that that they want a proper response which is going to be put in place by the centre and the state as far as this particular crisis is concerned. I don't think that election which are going to be held 3 months down the line or whatever has any kind of impact, or it will impact the timeline which you said in any which way. I think the government would want to talk to everybody because they don't want to send out a message that that they are being partisan in any which way.
Sapam Saab, do you think that this agreement should continue with the Kuki militants, suspension of operation, because a lot of Meitei groups had opposition to it.
90% of it.
90% of it. Mr. Sapam.
See, as I said before, they were never against the Indian, Indian forces, Indian Army or Assam Rifles, or let's say Manipur police. So in 2008, why there was a Sioux, that is a question to me as of now. And it can be continued, it may not be continued. It depends on the situation basically. And one thing which I could not complete. Let me just complete this, because otherwise it will be halfway through. As far as the Assam Rifles were concerned, I had some grievances this time. When I was working in the Assam Rifles, Cookie's brothers and sisters, they appreciated the Assam Rifles. When I went to the Naga village, they appreciated the Assam Rifles. And again, thereafter, I went to a Meitei village. Meitei village, lot of, sensitive Meitei village, and there also they appreciated. That is Assam Rifles. I'm telling you, that is Assam Rifles. When Sheru was to be burned, that time, Casper, that bulletproof vehicle of that Assam Rifles was parked in front of the gate of the police station, not allowing any vehicle moving out from the police station. This is not Assam Rifles, let me tell you. And on 3rd May, when the burning was taking place, and when the rally was taken out with armed militants with the rally, and Assam Rifles seeing it, that is not Assam Rifles. That is not Assam Rifles. I am not proud of that Assam Rifles. And
then who are they?
Jawans.
Then Colonel, who are they?
No,
if they are not Assam Rifles, then who are they?
Indian Assam Rifles. They can't behave like that. It is the personality, as I told you. It is the personality.
Are you trying to say, Colonel Sapam? Are you trying to say, Colonel Sapam, that they are? Yes. It all depends on. Assam Rifle response to a particular situation doesn't depend on the kind of training they get. It all depends on the single individual officer who leads them. Is this what you are trying to say?
It is the personality of the officer. I am telling you again and again. It is the personality of the officer with what type of order he gives. It depends on that how he reacts. You cannot see. We are not supposed to see any person being, thrashed up in front of Assam Rifle or anything, any property being burned. No, it is not that. They have the right to stop it, and they are given the power to, go this side also, that side also, make the situation conducive for everybody. This was not done this time. This is the thing which I wanted to bring out. And now what happened was, like, as far as the thing is concerned, the talk must go on, and they must, there should be a proper situation created so that talks are positive.
Such extreme positions have been taken, like separate administration and all that. ये होगा कैसे? Sometimes I think because वो कहते हैं ना कि आप बहुत extreme से शुरू करते हैं, फिर धीरे-धीरे you take the middle ground. But separate administration is a very extreme position. वो तो even
it's not even separate administration anymore, separate state.
How do you I don't know. You're much better. You understand the mechanics of it. वो middle ground क्या है? Like for example, I know the starting ground, separate administration. What is the middle ground? 6th schedule, the current actualization of 5th schedule, Sapam Saab?
See, Manipur is a very small state, yeah. How can anybody ask this kind of thing? The center, the government in the center is not fool, yeah. And how can it be, even for that Meitei? If they ask for unreasonable thing, how can it be this thing? Let them decide. They are mature enough. That I don't want to say anything on that. But the thing is, the ground reality, people must know. People, both sides, people are very, 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 they are suffering. They all are suffering.
Both are suffering. There's a bit of an audio problem.
It's not that the Meiteis are suffering, Cookies are also suffering. Let them settle down. Sir, Hawke has still doubt. Timeline. No, there's no timeline. Till the time the clash is over, the weapon will not come. Because any party will not be butchered. That understanding has to be there, and thereafter weapons will come. Weapon will come only when there is understanding. Otherwise, weapon will not come. And weapon
I think if you ask me, Sapam Saab, that's the most important line. Sometimes कहते हैं ना, debate का सबसे important point आपसे आया है. Mr. Hawke, he is saying that unless and until there is an understanding, the weapon will not come. It means that
no side wants to get butchered.
So first of all, can there be an understanding on separate administration?
Separate administration, how can it be?
To answer a few points, let me answer a few points.
I'll come back. Sapam Saab, I'll come back to you.
It is only 30 lakhs.
Colonel Saab, I'll come back to you. I'm just asking Mr. Hawke to react on it. I'll just come back to you.
Yeah, let me come to the few points. The first is regarding whether the Kuki insurgent groups were fighting the paramilitary forces or not. I think if you go into some of the databases of armed conflict in South Asia, you find that many Kuki armed groups were killed by the paramilitary forces. For instance, in Kampopi district, there was an incident where more than 10 Kuki National Front militants were killed by the Assam Rifles. And there are other incidents where there is a fight took place and many casualties were there. So that is why I think they felt the necessity to have a suspension of operations so that they can talk with the Indian government. So if there is a kind of little research done then on the casualty of armed forces as well as the militant groups in Manipur, then you can find it out. I have seen all those databases kept by certain research groups in Delhi. And regarding the political talks, I think it's very evident that look into the kind of accommodation that has been felt by the tribal people for the last 45 years. If you see into the kind of political demands made by the tribals in Manipur, since 1978, they were demanding 6th schedule. 6th schedule is a kind of tribal autonomy which is generally practiced and which was framed in the Constituent Assembly under the leadership of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And this has become the form of tribal governance in different parts of Assam and other northeastern states. And that has been not given. On the contrary, you'll find that after Manipur statehood in 1972, you find that the valley communities, they demanded the inclusion of Manipuri in 8th schedule, which was given. Then the kind of demand that we see in the last 1 decade, like implementation of ILP, then it was given. There was no opposition because we don't oppose any kind of demands that would benefit everyone. And comes the scheduled tribe status.
Mr. Haukip, is 6th schedule workable?
I think it was earlier, but the kind of violence that we have right now and the deep wounds that needs to be healed in the decades to come, I think people will not be settled with the 6th schedule now. Something has to be done, and that would come out with the dialogue with the civil society.
But Sapam Saab also have a point. Manipur is such a small state. How much will you decide?
Let me reply something regarding this. Again.
And okay, you answer this question. I wanted to take this to Prasanjit ji. How can you? Okay, you answer that. You answer that. Tini, Haukip ji, you answer that. Aren't we giving rise to you're a sociologist, ethnic nations? How can we create states out of ethnicity? In India, states have been created out of linguistic. The drive was linguistic. If we continue to create state, boundaries out of ethnicities, this will lead to balkanization of India. Okay, that's my question.
Do I take this question because I know?
No, it's for you. I know. Academically, take that question.
Reorganized. It is basically based on linguistic lines. But the Northeastern Reorganization Act was done mainly based on ethnic lines. For instance, how Mizoram was created, it is for the Mizos, or how Nagaland was created, it's for the Nagas, and Meghalaya for the Garos, the Khasis and Jintias. And if you talk about the impossibility of creating administrative divisions or a political entity, look into Sikkim. Sikkim is a very small state, which is one part of the geographical size of Manipur, and in terms of the population also, it's just it's just the population of the Kukis right now, which is hardly 7 lakh. So if you compare it to geographically and in terms of population, demographically, then if there is a political will, something can be created, and it is possible. But we have to talk with different entities. You have the Nagas, you have the majority community, the Manipuris, and you have the Kukis. So a kind of dialogue has to be, initiated by the central government, and within few years, I think, in order to restore peace in Manipur, some form of political settlement has to be made. Otherwise, I think, the differences will keep on sorting up. And let me state one example of how unaccommodative we are in Manipur, because last week an FIR was filed against me and my colleague who works in Manipur University, because we edited a rebellion, a so-called rebellion by the Britishers, but we call it as a kind of struggle against the imperialist colonial forces. And we term that book as Anglo-Kuki War, which Professor Prasenjit Da has pointed out, which the majority communities were unwilling to accept. The Palace Revolt, or the Perez kind of revolution, was known as Anglo-Manipur War. Then why not the rebellions by the Kukis against the colonial forces could be termed as Anglo-Kuki War? What is wrong in that? We are happy that to amplify the kind of sacrifice made by the Manipuris in defending the territory of Manipur. And we are also proud to defend our freedom in the hills of Northeast India, which constitutes a northwestern part of Myanmar, the hills of Manipur, and some parts of Naga Hills and Assam. That Anglo-Kuki War was fought against the colonial forces, and if there is a commemoration in terms of books and articles, people should be happy about it. Why do you, it's a kind of a supremacist kind of, attitude that you look down upon other communities by saying that rebellion is not a war. That causes certain, kind of reaction from the minority community.
Professor,
and then
Mr. Hauke,
they can't live together with these neighbors.
Professor, it's can't live together. ये तो हो नहीं सकता ना. You don't change your neighbors. You have to live together. And one thing, there is no plan which I see visible on part of the state to get back the guns. There are two things which I am very surprised. Today the whole debate was about the Kuki militants, and everyone agreed that talk should happen, and we appreciate the work by MHA. But बंदूक वापस कैसे आएगी? वो तो उसमें कोई बात ही नहीं हो रही है. There is no talk about it.
No, see, I mean, holding of guns by itself should not be considered as a blackmailing point. Those who are holding the gun, they must feel secure. You see, that sense of security has to be brought back. What Mr. Shapam also was indirectly pointing out. Now, why should someone else feel insecure when a security guarantee is given to the other community? Why should Meiteis feel insecure if there is an institution that strengthens the state of Manipur and also secures the people of the hill? You can have several internal arrangements. Article 144 is there, 6th schedule is there, a kind of a administration that secures Kukis at the local level. That is not without the governing institution or the Manipur government. So Manipur government gets a stronger sense of security if there is a separate administration for the Kukis. It's not breaking the state of Manipur. I am totally against breaking the state of Manipur. But I am all in favor of a kind of an extended federalism, a kind of federal institutionalization allowed in the constitution, whereby institutional framework can secure an ethnic community, be it Nagas, be it Kukis, be it Meiteis, without breaking the state of Manipur. Now, Manipur government can preside over the entire thing without being ethnic. It could be an inter-ethnic system of governance, which is now fallen apart because government has tilted to this ethnic group or that ethnic group. Given that critical situation, we should evolve a different kind of federal institution, which is absolutely necessary, and the demands that are coming from the respective stakeholders, the validity and veracity of those demands need to be examined, and the system needs to be evolved whereby no one should feel insecure. If Kukis are given safeguard, Meitei brothers and sisters should not feel insecure.
I'll only say the idea of Indian citizenship needs to be defined. Idea of Indian citizenship needs to be above religion, ethnicity and language. Idea of Indian citizenship should be above the idea of majority and minority community. The idea of Indian citizenship should reflect what Baba Sahib Ambedkar spoke. He said democracy is like the topsoil on the Indian infrastructure, and he would say fraternity is the most important, one of the most important aspect of the constitution. I think the fraternity word needs to be worked in context of our citizenship. I think that's the way out. All I said on 17th, because the talks will have great bearing on the way the future course of Manipur evolves.
इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं क्योंकि सभी लोग कर रहे हैं.
Coaching is now starting from grade 3, 4, 5, 6.
होता जाने वाली बीच राह में